man, it's good to have you on. And for those of you who don't know, I promised you we wouldn't do the elevator pitch, but tell everybody who you are and what you do.
I am John Powell. I'm the president of the Southeastern Wildlife Exposition, and I manage the day-to-day operations of everything leading up to our event every February.
Yep. What I get asked, because I'm always like posting art and like tagging SEWE and stuff as we're getting ready for the show, but everybody always asks me, what's that SEWE thing that you're always posting about? So tell us, what is SEWE?
SEWE, we pronounce it SEWE down here in the lowlands. As a Southeastern Wildlife Exposition, it was the first show was in 1983, and it is a wildlife art event, which is often lost sometimes with how we've grown and how we've expanded through the city. I'm sure we'll come back to that. But for a wildlife art-based event, our mission is to support the genre and to support conservation and to have a strong economic impact here in Charleston.
Yeah.
We started out as 100 exhibitors and artists, and 5,000 attendees has now blossomed into nearly 500 artists and exhibitors and 40,000 attendees in Charleston every President's Day weekend.
Yep. It's wild, man. And I know, like, my experience doing events and stuff has been like designing graphics for the Turkey Federation convention and stuff like that. So I know a little bit of behind the scenes of what has to happen, but I can't even imagine what it's like to coordinate that kind of stuff. Because, I mean, any event like east of the Mississippi, if you're in a tourist location like Charleston, parking is a big deal. Like logistics is a big deal. Like even in Boone, going to a football game is a hard deal. So like tell me a little bit about that, because SEWE's a big event with a lot of stuff, a lot of vendors. Tell me a little bit about that, how that works. When does that start, the planning process?
It starts, we say it starts the day after. We close up shop for the year, but really it starts before that. You think about our educational entertainment. Jack Hanna used to come every year. Jeff Corwood's coming back this year, and Forrest Galante, who's on TV too, and they've got these schedules, so you have to get with them a year and a half in advance.
Oh wow!
Featured artists, as you're very familiar with, you have to, you get as far ahead of that as you can. Dates on the calendars for the hotels we work with, the Gilliard Auditorium, which is a public, space, that we work with the city. So just knowing that you're 3-4 years out and you can still use the same exhibit sites and that sort of thing. But really, we dive in the month after SEWE. It takes longer to close up the show than it used to. Everything's got a little bit harder than it used to be. You touched on it, whether it's parking or anything else. We are happily a victim of our own success, right? Our SEWE success has mirrored Charleston's growing popularity over the last decade and more. And with that comes challenges. Welcome challenges, but difficult nonetheless.
So to go old school, how long were you there? How long have you been there? And how did you get on in the first place? I don't remember.
So this will be my 19th show.
Yeah.
I was in Charleston, and I'll spare you some of the backstory, but basically between jobs, and I was looking for something to do to help out, and a friend of a friend said, hey, there's this, and I wasn't familiar with SEWE at that point. You want to help out? And so I did. I hopped on and volunteered. I was basically a runner. Just anything you needed to do, I would do. Whether it's
were you a balloon girl? You don't have to lie.
Yeah.
Did you start that way?
I would have been. There were so few. I feel like there were so few people. There's so few staff members back then. You did. Somebody asked you to be a balloon girl. And I fell in love with it. It was a great time. You work hard. All hours in the end of the night, but you have a good time doing it with the people you're doing it with. And then coincidentally moved away for about a year, and I came back and because I wanted to help out, and did the next year, and there was a job opening, and I thought it might just be a bridge deal. And like a lot of people, when you find something that you love, that's the end of the story, right? You just never left.
Yeah.
And I started when I first started here. I was working with corporate partners, helping out on the grant side. Moved into helping out with exhibitors, and sort of this baseline foundation of knowledge of SEWE and sort of helped out in every role and became executive director. I think it was maybe 12 years ago, and
Yeah,
just been doing it.
that's awesome.
It's
You gonna
been-
tell the story of how we first met?
do we remember it the same way?
I don't know, man.
It was a kitchen in Charlotte.
It was.
See, we don't remember it the same way.
I thought it was a New Year's Eve party in Charleston.
Maybe it was.
I don't know, man. Long story short, we were both dating girls that were friends, and we somehow ended up at the same place at the same time.
Correct.
And
We just remembered it as different cities.
yeah, I mean, different cities, different locations, different everything, different crowd. But I had heard of SEWE before and knew of it, but I was at that point, I was still working for the Turkey Federation, like painting nights and weekends and stuff. And it was one of those deals like, I'll never get into that show. Like, I'll never be good enough to get in there. And then you were you might have been like early on. I don't know if you were executive director yet.
It was in those years, I think.
In those years.
Yeah.
But we kind of hit it off and talked about, art, hunting, stuff like that. And then, years later we reconnected, and that's when I ended up getting into the show. I left the Turkey Federation, went out on my own, and then I don't know, I probably begged and pleaded you at some point. Or I had some dirt on you from a long time ago and was like, hey, man.
That seems more likely.
Yeah.
No, you.
Get out of here, dude.
I thought he was gonna scare you.
I didn't see him. He would.
I thought he was gonna scare you.
What he would probably do is just pop my seat and I would just drop out of the screen. Dude, you got to get out of here, man.
We no, I remember hitting it off about at least. I know that we hung out in Charlotte at one point, and then you had sent me some images, some turkey
Okay.
images, like, and I don't know if it's fair to say that's when you were really getting into starting your journey into original paintings, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I just remember I loved it, and I was like,
Yeah.
"This guy's going somewhere." And sent it around the office, and it wasn't too much longer after that where you were here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
A couple of years.
Yep. The wide-eyed rookie. Yeah, that was a pretty wild deal too, because I'd been to the show and seen it from the outside looking in, but never been a part of it. And that's when I kind of fell in love with it. Just as I tell people, it's like if you like Southern hunting culture, like there's something for you there, even if you don't want to buy original art. Like there's
Sure.
all kinds of stuff for you there. So
Oh.
how?
Oh, we want you to buy original art.
Well, of course we do. You come and buy original art, and then you go run along your way and look
There
at
you go.
dogs and stuff like that. So what are some things that? What was it like? I really want to hear behind the scenes from you on how SEWE has grown and what your role has been in it, because I'm genuinely interested, because I don't know some of it, but I want to hear like your take on it.
Well, you've seen it, like you just said, you've seen it from the outside a little bit, but now you are, and I say stuck, but that's where you need to be. Now you're in the fine art gallery for 3 straight days, plus.
Yep.
Interacting with art enthusiasts, buyers, hopefully, and people that just want to meet you.
Yeah.
But as you know, there are 4 other exhibit sites that are crazy busy, at the same time for 3
Yep.
straight days. The behind the scenes is just, it's funny in a lot of ways. We are so fortunate in that we have staff that returns every year. There are exhibit managers, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, most of the exhibit managers, 3 out of the 4, were here before I was here. They come back and they do it because
Oh,
they
wow.
love it. So when you have that kind of expertise or knowledge, you can't replace that. So we plan the show, we build, what we hope is going to be successful, and at the end of the day, starting on load in Thursday of SEWE, those guys take control of their own sites, and being able to pass that off is huge, because
Yeah.
again, the behind the scenes is the flare-ups, whether it's traffic or there's some sort of incident somewhere, or you want to make sure that you're taking care of your corporate partners or your benefactors.
Yeah.
lost tickets, we can go down, you know, the
Yeah.
smallest things. I mean, and we're a very personal organization, even though there's
Yeah.
40,000 people in town, we want to take care of everybody. And so you get caught
Hmm.
up in that. So, um, but it's gotten more complicated, certainly,
Yeah.
from the days that I started where, a couple of guys in a van could sort of take care of all the merchandise and, clean up an exhibit site and you pack out, are long gone.
Yeah.
And then you fast forward 10 years, where I was becoming executive director, it was still, you still had a little bit of that old school, but, the working with the city, which is great. It's just new rules, new procedures, new practices, and all for the
Yep.
health and betterment of our crowd. Still makes it more complicated. It's not
Yeah.
the wild wild west anymore. And but we have a team. We have the biggest staff that we've ever had. I think we're basically a full time of 8.
Yeah.
We have great seasonal staff, and they work all year. And there's less hurry up and wait than there used to be. We used to have this lull during the summer, and now it's
Hmm.
we close down a show and we go right back into the next one.
Yeah.
Um, but we have an office that's downtown Charleston,
Yeah.
right next to Charleston Place where you exhibit, and downstairs is a basement, or essentially that houses all of our product, and it's where we build our packages and sort of do the dirty work. And
Yeah.
upstairs is where we hang on the phone and do podcasts and
You have a studio. You look
but every
sharp though,
year
man.
it's the when you say, we still have people that say, I guess you guys are getting busy now. Really, we were busy in the fall. Now is
Yeah.
grinding out ticket sales. We still process all tickets through this office. Somebody
Yeah.
calls, we just there's no single secretary here. We all pick up the phone and answer and try to answer the questions. The it's still a small business. We're not
Hmm.
for profit, which is something that's important to us. And the um, I guess there's the cyclical nature of, we get public and private funding, right? So we are
Okay.
applying for grants from the state, county, city,
Yeah.
um, other local municipalities, and um, we try to make sure our sponsors are happy. We're extremely lucky that we really don't have attrition there. If we do have
Yeah.
a sponsor drop off, we have 3 or 4 that are in line that want to be a part of SEWE. So we're
Yeah.
really in a great spot as a show, where we've grown aggressively over the last 20 years. Um, but we also have our challenges.
Yeah. That's kind of like my brother. He's I don't even know what his title is now. He's like VP. He's a VP of operations for Kansas City for the Chiefs.
I
We've
remember
talked about
that.
that a little bit.
Yeah.
But everybody's like, once the season hits, it's like, oh man, you got to be busy. It's like, dude, we had to have tickets sold in July. Like,
Yeah.
once we get to the first kickoff, we're kind of, you're handling stuff, and there's always something that comes up, or a challenge, like you're saying. But the bulk of their work has got to be done long before. And they even plan, like, if they have potential to make a playoff run, then they have to plan all of those home games in advance. And if they actually happen, it's a bonus. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
like, you can't, you know how it is. You can't plan an event like a playoff game in a week. You can't wait to see if you win to plan it for the next week. So, I've seen a lot of that, mainly with people that are more successful than me, and like what they have to do business wise and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, man, I bet that's a challenge. Sometimes my paintbrushes break and I have to go buy a new one. It's about the biggest challenge I have to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
People, again, the people that say, well, you guys kind of get together the weekend before and plan this thing out, right?
Yeah.
They don't get it, and that's maybe not their fault. Um, we were down at Brittlebank Park, which is one of our exhibit sites. You've certainly seen it.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out where to position the Carolina Marsh Tacky Association. I don't know if you're familiar with Marsh Tacky horses, but it's
Uh-uh.
a breed that's South Carolina is very proud of. Old school. They can get through the marshes very well. They.
Okay.
I'll butcher the history if I go too much further, but they've been around like the Revolution, and they're coming to SEWE this year, which is great.
That's cool.
A lot of people that we have that own marsh tackies, but they're not a lot of them. And we were down at Brittlebank Park trying to position the horses where they can't see the camels from the petting zoo because the horses have never seen camels before. How do you lay out this area where the horses aren't going to get spooked by camels without the domino effect of sort of messing up the whole park? And that's just, we're down there with the Mars Tacky folks, and we've talked to the petting zoo folks, and you got to reposition where you have the bin for animal waste, and you got to make sure that's picked up. You got to make sure that hay and straw are delivered, for those things. And it just, when you start thinking about each individual exhibitor or each individual thing that we offer as entertainment, educational or not, it becomes a little complicated.
I love it, because I'm sure you probably have to like leave a corporate sponsorship meeting with Boeing, and then you have to go figure out how do we keep the camels and horses from seeing each other.
It's a pretty,
in the same day.
It's a pretty wide spectrum, but fortunately, Boeing is a great partner. We don't have to work too hard. They make it easy.
Well,
sometimes it's the smaller event or the smaller exhibitor that make it a little more difficult. Not in this case, but others.
And then you have to go deal with artists.
Man.
You're probably like, man, this camel and horse thing is about like dealing with the artists.
What a bunch.
Probably a little bit easier.
Dealing with artists, it's funny. In my evolution here at SEWE, the artists are sort of the last group that I've really learned. I've known them, I've seen them, but my experience has been outside of Charleston Place, because Charleston Place has so much support. The exhibit managers, the people that have been working in that gallery for 40 years, basically.
Yeah.
And a lot of the problems happen outside of that area. We're weather dependent for two of our major exhibit sites. So, if we've got a rainstorm coming, or if there's a wreck downtown, or if there's something like that that's, causing an effect, that's where I need to be, as opposed to the gallery, which is hopefully humming along like it should be.
Yeah. Well, and that is cool. You touched on it earlier about how you've got like repeat people all the time, and it kind of is. I mean, it's cheesy to say it's like family, but it is cool to go and see everybody. Like Parker, is Parker working with you guys full time now?
Yes.
Dude, she was like a sophomore in high school balloon girl. And for people that don't know, the balloon girls, they carry balloons so you can see them above the crowd. And then when you have a sale, they'll come ring you up. But like, she was a balloon girl as a sophomore in high school. And then we watched her all the way through college and then come back. And it's wild, for as big of an event as you have, you don't have much attrition, and like the same people are there all the time. And as artists, that's cool for us, because we kind of have a little bit of, we're outside of our studio, we're outside of our comfort zone tremendously, but we do have a little bit of family, like people we know we can see and talk to, and it's cool. It's kind of like a little homecoming every year.
I've had a few interviews and talked to some folks about the generational aspect this year. They always ask about the feature piece, right? The feature painting. And Kathleen Dunphy is a great artist. It's geese and goslings, and if you want to pull something from it, I talk about the generational aspect. And I've referenced that Parker is actually second generation staff. Her mother used to work here many years ago. Her father's on the board, and then our board separately has second generation members on the board.
Oh, wow.
And then when you talk about weekend staff, we have third generation. We've got grandkids that are working the merchandise tent or the Coke tent. So it is, and it speaks to the fact that it's not an individual passion for just the dad or the mom, whatever. It's a family deal. And I think if you look further, that's what's going to keep this show solid, moving forward and together, whether it's sponsors or staff, attendees. It's generational, and it's you can't plan for that. It's got to happen on its own. It's got to be organic, and it's really special.
Yeah. Well, I've even seen there's some generational artists that are coming too.
Sorry, like, the obvious ones I left out. Yeah. Every aspect of the show.
That's cool, man. So tell me the role of like the featured artist, feature piece. How does that work? Why is it important to SEWE? And you don't have to like sugarcoat it for me.
Well, like, I don't. There's not a better phrase than it sets the tone. And what I don't really know what that means, other than it's what really gets staff internally excited. You know, you remember this process, and we sort of back a featured artist into a corner, and we say, give us a couple of ideas, give us some sketches, or show us some things you've already worked on.
Yeah.
We're not going to put any parameters, and it's not a rule, but no one's ever done the same animal or image twice. This gets harder as you it's harder as you go along. But each artist done it. But and that's what gets us started. That's what gets us jumped off, and that helps us form our imagery for print materials, for ads, for everything else, and it's sort of the rallying point. And it also helps us get to know the artist, which is great. Yeah. Fortunately, I already knew you. You and I were buddies long before that, but all of the featured artists that have been part of SEWE since I've been here, I know better than those who have not been featured, and that's not by design. It's just because we spend a lot more time working with them. They spend more time in Charleston, and it's not, our goal is to support all artists, but the featured artist makes a huge commitment, as they say, okay, we're not going to do all the commissions we can outside of this. We're not going to send all the work that we have to a gallery. We're going to commit to SEWE because SEWE is going to promote me on a national level, and it's going to be a partnership, and we're going to jump in. And it's a big leap for some.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it really is, because you have to bring a lot of work, and for those who don't know, you can only do it once in your career, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
So far we haven't. So there are no set rules, and we've talked about that before too.
New sheriff in town, we got. But so I think I was there 9 or 10 years before you guys asked me to be the featured artist. So it's like a big deal. It's like a big honor, and it's a big spotlight that's on you. But you do have to. I've done a lot of other stuff. I was actually, one thing I walked away from a lot of design work. I was doing print and marketing in the outdoor industry. And I literally shut all that off, and it fundamentally changed our business. Like, I literally, burned the ship, so to say. So, but you've got to bring, you want to, and you have to bring all your best stuff, and a lot of it. So like some of these other artists that are sending work to galleries, they got to hold back on that a little bit. Basically, everything for the year has to function around, I want to have a good show at SEWE. So
it's a big ask. We don't take it lightly.
Yeah.
We know we're doing. There are, I think, in the history of SEWE, I don't know that there are many that have knocked it as far out of the park as you did. There are, and there's some artists that fell flat, and there's not necessarily a reason for that. Great artists, we wouldn't select them as featured otherwise, but just something missed. But there's something to be said for how you operate. Our staff was more excited about you as featured artists than in a long time, because of your ability to, in this new world that we live in, this new art world we live in, provide imagery on a regular basis, whether it's sketches or, connect us with other people in touching industries, or, keeping up with social. Your social is as powerful as SEWE's. It was a special thing, and it all worked, right?
Yeah.
At least in our opinion, it worked.
Yeah, and well, I thought it was great, man. We obviously sold well, but to your point, there's a lot of, you never know, we could be in a huge recession during the year, or coming out of COVID. That was probably a real hard time for you guys. But yeah, there's a lot that has to line up. But yeah, you really do. I guess the featured, I feel like you probably get what you put into it for the most part.
Yeah.
So it was cool. It was wild to see. But I was talking to Kim the other day, and when you're the featured artist, you have like a dedicated room to change in or go chill in if you want to, and you have like, you basically, if I want to like a snack, I just ask somebody. Like you have like the red carpet rolled out for you, and we're like, oh, it's gonna kind of suck. We're gonna like be back to normal.
Never. No, but it is. It's already a big ask on all the artists that are present, but the feature gets in a little bit early. They ask to do interviews. We won't we won't hesitate to ask you to get on at 5 a.m. and that sort of thing. And so
Yeah.
we hope we can give as much as we ask for, and it's probably, harder on the feature than it is on anybody else.
Yeah. Well, it's just, yeah, it's, you guys do, I mean, you ask for a lot, but from an artist perspective, it's like, it's an opportunity.
Sure.
I mean, when do you get the opportunity to be in a room of 100 other really great artists, and you're literally put up on a pedestal in front of them? Like, you want to talk about, great marketing, and that's the thing that, because we've done some other shows, and people ask me, well, what's the difference between SEWE and this show or that show? And I wasn't doing like a big art circuit, but like, I just show up with my art, and that's it. Like, I'm not bringing my own booth. We're not doing our own like marketing. Like, SEWE literally brings tens of thousands of your target market into a city for you, sets up the venue, sets up this and sets up that. You've just got to bring your A game and fulfill your end of the bargain. So if you look at it that way, it's a really good collaborative thing, and it's not that much of an ask for SEWE, because you guys are trying to unite us with buyers, which is not easy,
Yeah. I mean, when the doors open at SEWE, we've done nearly everything we can do. We've talk about featured. You have whatever the value is in having Ryan Kirby and national art publications in Garden and Gun and Southern Living. So that's your image, that's your name. We're advertising Ryan Kirby, we're advertising SEWE, and we're advertising Charleston, which are all important, in what we do. But when you think about the investment that SEWE has, the Charleston Place Hotel is one of the nicest hotels downtown Charleston. Certainly, the biggest meeting space, and we utilize all of it. And a very complicated wall system, with lighting and everything else. And so the investment that we have before those doors open is significant. And so we don't use that as a, hey, you better bring it. But we've done what we can do. So we hope that artists bring their.
Yeah. But hey, you better bring it. Wait, when's the hotel getting renovated?
In stages. I don't.
Oh,
think
it is.
Yeah, we have a meeting with them in just a little bit. The meeting space after SEWE this year, and all for the better. They're not going to mess with the the ballroom, and some of those outer rooms will change, and so we'll figure out how to work our way around that. But from an artist standpoint, other than creating maybe an easier way to load in and out over the years, that's about it. But it's great. And speaking of the hotel, I mentioned on this podcast, we've been operating a gallery since July inside the hotel, which is unique for us. And it's we're bridging a gap between a tenant moving out and whenever they renovate the lower space, which is different than the meeting space upstairs. But that's been great for us. It's been an opportunity to shine a spotlight on potential new artists. Some of the old school, which I'm sure you and I will get to in a minute, old school artists that either don't travel anymore or can't travel, or don't need to. And so it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. When I heard you guys were doing that gallery, I was like, man, that's genius. Like, that's a really good. It gives SEWE, because there's a lot of tourism coming in through the hotel, and there's probably going to be people that don't even know about SEWE, and they see that gallery and they're like, well, what's this? And they end up
that's the main thing that's been worth the investment. I mean, it's not just an art gallery, it's engaging people with what the show is, and people want to know where they can buy tickets, and it's been a lot of fun to have a front facing, engage with people. They come and they sit down and they look at artwork. They don't have to be a buyer, but if it serves a little bit of inspiration, we've had school kids in there, we've had senior living facilities come and take a tour, so the full age group and the casual tourists popping in. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Love to get a piece from Ryan Kirby in there.
I don't know if you can afford it.
I don't know if I can either. These days.
No, that's true. No, I would love to, and again, we're going through like a lot of growth and changes here. And I feel like I'm kind of back in the featured artist stage, because I have to tell my crew. So we've got, Madison, our office manager, she came on January 1st, the year I was featured. So like a month and a half. And
fired.
they have heard after SEWE from me so many times they probably don't even hear it anymore because it's like, look, you just go check email and type things and pretend like you're doing stuff. I'll talk to you after SEWE. You know, we'll get going then. But yeah, I've got a hustle. I've got my paint frames are coming in today, and I've got kind of my lineup done. But I'm kind of in that mode again where I just got to I got churn.
I
So
understand.
I'm
That's
sure
what, that's my response to people in my personal life is I'll talk to you after SeaWe.
after SEWE.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Anything new for the show this year that's completely different besides the
We have a
horses
couple
and
of,
camels?
no, we've got a couple of smaller events that we're doing. We've kind of sort of dipped our toes into the music realm. We work with the Gilliard for an opening concert. Ian Munsick's going to be here, and then we have
Okay.
an event on Friday night that's called Low Country Lyrics, which is songwriters in the round at a private residence in Mount Pleasant. It's different than we normally do,
Huh.
but it's already been very popular. Tickets are flying, so that's good.
Yeah.
People ask that all the time. What's new, and as you know very well, I mean, 20 to 30% of that gallery will be new artist or returning artist. Someone that hasn't
Yeah.
been in the last couple of years. We have to look at what we're offering. Style, subject matter,
Yeah.
and the list goes on. And who's selling, who's popular with our crowd. So,
Yeah.
and that also applies to the other exhibit sites. The artisans, craftsmen at Gilliard, the lifestyle brands and such at Brittlebank, and then guides and outfitters and that sort of thing at the Marriott, which we've really started to build out over the last 2 years. And
Okay.
I'm optimistic that continues to be strong.
Yep. Yep. So you've got a lot of new artists coming this year?
I think so.
Yeah.
We've had at least one yesterday said they couldn't come. You know how that happens. Attrition. They either don't have enough work or there's a medical emergency. So basically, if we start with the plan of saying we're going to have 90 to 100 artists, right?
Yeah.
And then we know within that's going to be about 10% attrition over the time we start signing
Okay.
artists up, which is July, August. It's early.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen in a 6-month span. And then one of the things that we also are trying to do this year, it's been something I've wanted to do for a long time, is say, why don't we pull back a little bit on the number of artists? Let's make sure we have quality over quantity, and allow those artists to create a bigger body of work as opposed to sort of constricting them and then having more artists. So
Yeah.
we'll see how that works.
Yep. That's cool, man. What else? Tell me some behind the scenes stories from SeaWe that people might not know.
Man, most of it I don't want on the airwaves.
Dude, I tell people there's only like 3 people that listen.
We've,
My mom and dad and maybe Kim. So you're not.
I'm sure you'll get two. You'll get 2 more parents out of this one. I can assure you. And we've had a camel bolt on us and run across Meeting Street during the weekend.
Did you really?
Yeah, we've had people call, a lady call and tell us, one of the foxes that we were using was loose. We didn't have any foxes that year. Just foxes and coyotes live in downtown Charleston, so she saw them across the road, and we get calls all the
She thought
time.
it was you guys.
For some reason, we get calls all the time about wildlife removal. We'll get a call every other day about,
Really?
some sort of pest in somebody's backyard, and we have to tell them.
You're like, that's okay. We'll get Jack Hanna to release one of his
Yeah,
red-tailed
we're not
hawks
that-
and we'll take care of it.
we're not in that realm. And you can go by event. I mean, it's a happy-go-lucky crowd, that
Yeah.
weekend. So it's very festive. So
Yeah.
with that comes, some funny stories. We have a party called the Low Country Social at Brittlebank Park, which is
Yeah.
sort of the last of this, outdoor. If it rains, it rains. If it doesn't, it doesn't. We're burning fire kettles and drinking beer and eating oysters. And one year there was a big crowd that left in Bird Buggy, the quail wagons, and drove all the way to Charleston Place. Bill Murray was on the back of one, and God knows what else. And I didn't know what was legal and what wasn't, and so I was following in my truck with my flashers on, and then a cop came behind me and put his lights on, and I didn't know if we were starting a parade or we were all going to get in trouble. But it works out.
Yeah. Do you play the Bill Murray card? Like, hey, Hey, Bill Murray, talk to this
Yeah.
cop.
He might have ended up in some imagery, but no, he's friends of some friends of SEWE, so it's fun if he's around, and so are
Yeah,
other special guests like that.
yeah, yeah.
We've
Is
we've
Go
closed
ahead.
down we've in the past we've closed down the ballroom, or we've opened it up at night for a celebrity, or a big buyer, and so that
Oh,
part's
really?
fun. And then we've this year there's certainly the potential for some of the candidates to be here, with South Carolina being a primary and a key state. So,
Oh, yeah.
and
That's cool.
that presents its own logistics issues with security and crowd and access, but
Yeah,
we tackle those as they come.
that's cool. Well, now that I know that, I'm gonna go paint an eagle with its wing spread and the American flag behind it as my central piece.
I've seen one or two of those in the past, but let me see it. Let me see it before you bring it.
Let me see it before you bring it. Yeah,
I'm still ready
nothing
for
but
you.
eagles.
I'm ready for you to do a rabbit chase. I'm ready for you to do a rabbit with some beagles behind it. I guess I have to beg you
Man,
to commission it.
well,
One of those two
I've
is a lot
got
less expensive than the other.
I've got uh, I've got a 24 by 36, and I would love, they have those old fox chasing scenes. I'd love to somehow come up with a composition of beagle chasing a rabbit. So that may be my big one. I still have. It's probably a little unnerving for you to hear that like my biggest pieces I haven't painted yet. Like I haven't even
It's
done
not.
it
I'm not worried. I don't worry about you. I will say this: you have never not brought it. And there are a handful of artists that I can say that about. So
Well,
we're fortunate.
we do our best. The one thing that's good is it is the only show that I do, so I can stockpile some work for that. You know, so
Well, and you're in a position where you understand it as well as we do from a show standpoint. It's great for our artists, and it's also concerning for us as a show. If
yeah,
when artists are selling online and through galleries, do they have to come to Charleston, which has gotten more expensive? And
yeah,
we all know we touched on this, but the artists are coming with nothing sold yet. Well,
yeah,
these days we do have pre-sales, which are great, but
yeah,
they're committing to 4 nights in a hotel room, meals out, the travel, shipping their work, which is expensive.
yeah,
So it's a it's a big ask, to say
yeah,
come, and especially for some of the really great artists who have pieces sold that are before they're off the easel. What is their incentive to come to see? I mean, a lot of it's out of loyalty. A lot of it's someone like you who, if we say we played a small part in getting your name out there, that you don't forget it. You keep coming back.
yeah,
We hope
yeah.
we hope that that continues.
Well, and we had the advantage of we're pretty close. I think we're 5 hours from Charleston, but like we have friends that live down there. So in the early days before kids and stuff, we're gonna roll that way this year, kind of lean and mean. But like Kim and I would just throw my art in the back of my truck and just go,
Yep.
and it kind of opened my eyes because like Kyle, I was talking to him, and some of those people have 3 or 4 grand in the trip by the time they hotel flights, they ship their work, all that kind of stuff, or some of them drive across country. So there's a little bit less pressure. But yeah, I remember. Do you remember the year that there was those crazy storms right ahead of SeaWee? Um, let's see,
More
who
than
was
one
the
year.
feature that was there? Well, there was one year where there was like a bunch of tornadoes and high wind, and nobody could get in. And Chad Poppleton was the feature that year,
Chatty
and
P.
because his wife couldn't make it, and it sucked because her flights were canceled. He was finally the feature, and he couldn't make it. But anyway, um, I was watching the weather forecast, and this is when Kim and I, before kids, we were getting ready. We were going to drive down the next day, and all these storms were coming in. And I was like, at 9 o'clock at night, I was like, Kim, we got to load up tonight, and we're just going to go. We're just going to drive to Charleston. So we drove down, got in at like 2 or 3, and then those storms came through, and we were already in Charleston. And I told Kim, I was like, hopefully this will be like Forrest Gump, and like nobody else can make it, and I'll be the only Trent boat in town, and we can still have some work. Like that was my thinking. I was just like,
That's not a team. That's not a team player.
no, not a team player at all. But it was like my second year there, and I mean, you just want to sell and make an impression, and you just want to do good at the show. But I was like, yeah, hopefully nobody else will make it. And we'll be the only the only art there.
Well, but what you saw, it's happened before. Like my parents, I've got this video of driving down, leaving Greenville, North Carolina in the snow, and on a 2-lane highway, there's only 2 ruts in the road. There, everything else is snow, so it's just 35 miles an hour. They came. There's a old school family that's VIPs. Their daughter hitchhiked essentially from Florida to get up here. I mean,
Okay.
It's something that people don't want to miss. Which is special.
So one thing I've always said about SEWE is you guys do a great job of taking care of your VIPs. And people that are hosting events, I was like, if you guys want to learn how to do VIP stuff, you got to look at what they do. Tell me a little bit about that and like how that works. What are some of the perks of being VIP?
Well, we're lucky in a lot of ways in that we know a lot of their names. We know them.
Yeah.
They come every year, and so they're friends. Sometimes they're friends first. Or again, generational. Their parents were a part of the show, but they also have to be aware it's high volume. SEWE's a big show, so even our VIP program, I wouldn't say it's intimate. We've got 400 packages we essentially sell every year, whether that's a 10-person package or a 2-person package, and they get access early. They get access to preview afternoon, preview hours Friday and Saturday morning. But we keep open bars, around town. It's not just for art. It's just for their enjoyment, a place to sit down, relax, and have a snack. Place for them to sort of get out of the masses and the fray. Yeah. They also get first access. If you were here last year, we're gonna invite you first to come, to come back. And then certainly we've got a great group of collectors and buyers that are part of our President's Club. If they're staying, it doesn't matter where they're staying, but if they roll up to security at 2 in the morning and want to go peruse the ballroom and look at that Ryan Kirby piece again, they're allowed in there.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a handful of them. You'll see the President's Club badges. Might want to be even nicer to them. But we have smaller shuttle buses for them. We have some lounges, like I said, and we have some high-rise stuff or some risers at Brittlebank where they can see dock dogs better. So it's just we want to treat all of our attendees, from the kid who's here for free to our President's Club the same, but we also want to give them some extra access.
Yeah, that's cool. I feel like the artist's dream is, we're all kind of like, we're not really salespeople very much. Some of us, everybody's got a different experience, but I think the dream for every artist is to leave the ballroom and come back and all of their work is sold.
Yeah.
Like overnight. And to know that that's a potential gives me hope.
There's a joke about artists, some are so caught up in their work, they're emotional about it, and they say if you could flip-flop, if you could sell the artist across from you's work, everybody would sell a bit more.
That's true.
But it's so unique with the artist being there. There's really not, even if you go out to Oklahoma or if you go out to Jackson, there's really, in mass, there's not really a show that has this many artists that are present with their work for 3 straight days.
Okay.
And as the personal relationships go into that, whether they're inspired by the scene that you painted, Ryan, or that's or 10% of it is your dynamic personality. It's important, and they're become friends. And you brought clients and buyers to SEWE because they wanted to see you do well, especially with every show, but feature. But then those that you met at SEWE, and they're they're going to be they're going to be collectors forever of yours. Yeah. So it's another one of those.
One thing that was really cool and kind of rewarding for me, and not to get like sappy or anything, but you meet people at the show and they don't buy, but you just see them every year and you talk to them. But when I was the feature last year, they bought. They're like, we've been talking for years and I'm buying the year that you're the feature. And that's a pretty cool deal,
Well, and some of those, especially if they're younger, and they don't have to be younger. Someone in an older generation can still want to buy, but it's aspirational. Like I want to buy a piece from Ryan Kirby one day when I can afford it. It's just it's the fact of it. And when you see that happen, it's pretty special. And then there's I'm older than you, right? Probably.
I'm 41. How old are you?
Yeah, I'm older than you by a couple of 3-4 years. But it's our generation. And you're on the younger side. that's
Yeah.
represented in the ballroom, by a lot in some cases, and so am I. My wife Davey and I laugh. We have a lot of little pieces, because I got into wildlife art by my job, but we have a lot of pieces that are this big. But every now and
Yeah.
then you see, something you say, I really want that, and you have to get to a place where you can afford it.
Yeah.
Um, but it also there's some great pieces I've seen, but I don't really know the artist well. But when I
Yeah.
know the artist well, you become a cheerleader, and you're like, and Ryan knocked it out of the park, like you did when you're featured.
Yeah.
That's exciting for us that have been part of the
Wait,
show for so long.
wait till you see my bald eagle with its wings spread in front of an
Can't
American
wait.
flag.
I can't wait. I've got a special place for it.
And because you're a former raffle girl, you can ring up your own sale.
That's
You
right.
know how to do it.
That's right. I've done it all. No, I wish I
um,
could. I need help on all technology these days.
you are older.
Hmm.
Um, you got to be at a meeting at 9:30.
Yeah, right across the
All right,
way.
right across the way. Well, what else do we need to touch on? And I want you to tell people a little bit more about this year's event, where they can get tickets and stuff.
So you can get tickets at SEWE.com. That's easy up until February 1st. We'll be discounted 20% up until then. You can also get them at the exhibit sites during the show.
Hmm.
We tell people, you touched on it, there's something for everybody here. I mean, even
Yeah.
if you're not a wildlife art or a wildlife enthusiast, there's food and drink, there's music, there's a festive atmosphere. Something will get you while you're here,
Yeah.
especially if you get all the sites, and you don't try to see it all in one day either. Come for multiple days. Bring your kids,
Yeah.
right? Bring
Or
your
not.
kids. Um, and it's a great time. You got to experience it
Yeah.
one time, and it's just like our sponsors and our VIPs. We don't see a lot of attrition. Once you've come, you either come every year, or you come every couple of years, and it's
Yep.
great.
We had a couple people that were like buyers of mine, like close to us, and we specifically invited them for the show last year, and they're like, "Dude, we fell in love with it. We're going to be here every year."
Good.
So
And it's a rising tide too. We talk about you
yeah,
bringing your clients who they want to support. Same with those that have collected other artists. Gravitate toward your work. Because they
yeah,
found somebody that they really like in their work. So it's special. There's not
yeah,
that air of competition or
yeah.
missing sales. We're all trying to do it together.
One question I got for you: what's the most expensive piece you've ever seen sold, or it might have been the feature auction? Just curious.
In the ballroom,
In the ballroom.
not necessarily as a result of SEWE. Um, I don't know. I think I saw
Yeah,
a $45,000 piece one time, and I can't tell you where it was. There have been some auctions that have gone higher, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
And there's some pieces that we've helped facilitate, maybe a deceased artist or with one of the auction houses that have hit six
yeah.
figures. Um, but I
Man,
tell you, it
what?
doesn't. When we sell a piece online, we sell a piece to the gallery. If
Hmm.
it's $700 or 7,000 or 70,000, there's a group staff text, and then somebody will send the receipt, and it's just
Oh,
we're
that's
excited.
cool.
You know what I mean? It's awesome because we're
Yeah,
so excited that we're moving artwork, and it's a
yeah,
special thing. It's like everybody has their different role in here, but you see that we've sold a painting, and everybody just gets super jacked.
yeah. That's cool. Kind of like the artists do.
Yeah.
I remember when it was our first year at the show, and Jay Kemp was on the other side of us, and
Oh,
he only had
Jay.
three. He only had three pieces. There was a couple real small ones, and then he had a big owl that was like perched on a limb, and it had a bunch of Spanish moss, and I think it was like 37 or 38 grand or something like that. And I'm first time in. I'm like looking around, seeing what's selling, how all this works. And Jay didn't sell anything for the first 3 days, and then like an hour before the ballroom closed on Sunday, some old lady came in, little old woman, walked in by herself and was like, "I want that one," and she bought it. And I was like, "Holy cow, man,
Isn't
that's
it crazy?
awesome!"
Isn't it crazy how that
It's
happens? You,
nuts.
you think, some people are deliberate about it. They're here for Thursday afternoon. They're almost, power walking through the ballroom. They want to find
Yep.
something. They just got it in their blood. And then you've got that Sunday afternoon story, which is like, I've been
Yep.
looking at it all weekend. I'm not going to let somebody else get it. It's great.
Yep.
And if Jay I was going to make a joke that if Jay had 3 paintings, he'd been working on them for 2 years. And I'll tell him the same.
Well, there's a lot of detail. Every little strand of Spanish
He's an incredible
moss.
Artist. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
And another story of someone who's been featured, and once they're featured at SEWE, they get picked up by some of the powerhouse galleries out west, and sometimes we lose their attendance or lose their ability to come because they found this whole other audience,
Yeah.
across the Great Plains.
Yeah. Well, there was one year I was talking to a guy, and the crazy thing about SEWE that I found is you never know who you're talking to. Like, you just don't know. Everybody there is, successful, educated. They've got their stuff. They got their life together. But I was talking to a guy from Florida, and he had 3 boys, and they were about to go to college. And you also start seeing, like, when you see strollers, you're like, well, they're not going to buy. I see a dude about to send 3 boys to college. Like, 2 were twins, and 1 was a year younger or something like that. He ain't buying. He's saving for tuition, and you just start playing these things in your head. But I just started talking to his boys about baseball and art. One of them wanted to study art. And that was like Friday. And then Sunday, he came back around, and there was this moose piece that I wasn't going to bring it. Kim was like, you got to bring the moose. You got to bring the moose. You got to bring the moose. And he's like, hey, man, I really appreciate you talking to my boys, and kind of hanging out. He's like, I actually am a big contractor in Florida, and I killed a moose this last fall, that looked just like that. I want to buy that piece. And it was the biggest one I had that year. And you just learn that, like, you never know, man. You can't judge a book by its cover, and you never know who's going to buy or why. But it was a pretty cool story.
Well, and again, you nailed it. I mean, if somebody stereotypes the people walking around with the barber jacket and the lab, right? Well,
yeah,
some of those people really reached out to buy that barber jacket,
Yeah.
And the guy that flew on his private jet to come look at artwork was also wearing a barber jacket. You don't know how to differentiate, and maybe that's part of why it's such a special thing. Is there are no judgments? There's no can you afford that or not? The artists talk to everybody equally. The people are treated equally at all the exhibit sites, and at the end of the day, we just kind of gather around a fire kettle and drink a cold beer, and it's it's special.
Yep. All right, man. Well, we're gonna jump off here because I know you've probably got a way more important meeting than this podcast.
There's nothing more important than hanging out with you, Ryan.
Or you found a solution.
I found out that you've got some painting to do between now and February. You can expect a few more calls from me. Just checking in.
It's funny, man. I wear earpods when I work all the time, and Siri will dictate text to me, so I hear all this stuff. But
it's good to know.
I got to get me an eagle painted, man. It's gonna be a big one.
Well, let's go chase some rabbits.
Big filler. Yeah, that'd be awesome, man. That'd be sweet.
I don't know if we can squeeze it in before now and then, but we'll try.
Yeah, you're the boss. Anything goes with you.
That's not the case. We know this, don't we? Thanks for giving me the opportunity, man. I really appreciate it.
Man. Yeah, dude. I appreciate it. Yep. We'll see you soon, man. This will probably air in a couple of weeks, and we'll be done at the show. But I would encourage everybody to check out SEWE and come see us in person in Charleston.
February 16th to the 18th.
There you go.